It's about love. It's about God. It's about time. It's about your life. It's about your smile. It's about your health and your hopes and your dreams, your body, your mind, and your family. It's about your relationships and your future and your impact and your legacy. It's about God. It's about peace. It's about joy. It's about faith. And it's about hope. It's about time. And it's about space. And it's about science. It's about life. It's about love. And your awareness. It's about your choices and your forgiveness. It's about your confidence and your courage and your creativity and your wisdom. It's about your light, and it's about your power, and it's about your strength, and it's about your dreams and your goals and your hopes. It's about your life. It's about love. It's about faith. It's about God. It's about hope. It's about light. It's about love. It's about you. It's about life. It's about love. It's about God. I'm Queenie Brown, and I invite you to join me and the rest of us on this journey. After all, it's about you. Are you ready? Of course you are. You wouldn't have found me if you weren't. Welcome. Let's get it going. Brown, thank you so much for joining me today for day 18 of the Self-Love Lessons Read Along. Tissue alert. Today is going to be one of those days that we're going deeper, and I'm going to be sharing some vulnerable moments from my own life, and perhaps you'll see yourself in my story. But most importantly, we're talking about your love account. And the premise is that we're each born with a love account and that we start with a zero balance. And we're going to talk more about how that balance is built up, how it's withdrawn from, et cetera, et cetera. So before we get started, though, I want to welcome you. Now is the time. If you have not already downloaded your copy of the Self-Love Lessons, please do go to www.queeniebrown.com and download your free copy. Get on the list so that you will be informed of upcoming events and things that we've got coming down the pike. God has a big plan for this message, and He intends for it to get out to the masses so that we all can have our hearts healed, so that we all can have our relationships mended, and so that we all can rise into the power that we've been created and destined and built to operate from. So the last few weeks, we have been journeying through the self-love lessons. Today, you are going to need a pen and a paper. I'm letting you know now. And also now would be a good time to share this with your friends. Make sure you like and subscribe so that you'll be notified when I go live again. So let me give you a quick recap. Yesterday, we started to talk about your love account and that we're all born. Well, hang on a second. Roll call. If you're watching us live, please make sure you do a hashtag present to let me know you're here. If you're watching on the replay, make sure you do hashtag replay. If you're a girl mom, hashtag girl mom. If you're a fella watching, we welcome you, hashtag fella. And then if you watch to the end of the show, make sure that you put hashtag finish so that I know that you finished and that you will be able to be entered to win a prize at the end. All right. Okay, so again, we're talking about your love account, and we're each born with a zero balance, right? So when you were a little baby, the love deposits were made to you via the 5 love languages. That includes physical touch. Your parents touched you and held you. Acts of service. Your parents provided all the things that you need. Words of affirmation. Your parents told you how much they loved you and they affirmed you. Quality time. They spent the time that you needed with you. And giving of gifts. You received gifts. Well, those are all the different ways that we deposit love into one another, but it started with a zero balance in your baby life. And so as your mother and father made deposits into your life, your account balance grew, right? You started to feel the physical touch, the acts of service, the words of affirmation. Those were all deposits, the quality time, the giving of gifts. That all helped to build your esteem. It built your self-worth. It built your understanding of love. It built your confidence. It just built so much in you when you had those deposits made into you early on. And then after your parents made the deposits, then the community deposited into you, your grandparents, your cousins and uncles and aunts, and the community at large, your church, your outside people, all of those people did the very same things, providing you with physical touch, with a hug or a holding of a hand or a pat on the back, those types of things, acts of service, words of affirmation, quality time, and giving of gifts. So your love account began to grow considerably as a result of all of those deposits over time. But then at the same time, there were also things that you experienced, which were like having your feelings hurt or feeling judged or rejected or bullied or betrayed or slandered, where there were lies made against you, or you felt manipulated, or when you were neglected or abused, or when you felt abandoned or rejected. All of those types of feelings and many, many others contribute to making withdrawals from your love account, right? That's a typo. Got to fix that. So, but as those withdrawals happen, your balance goes lower, just like with a bank, right? So, when you have enough of those hurt feelings and enough of those betrayals and enough neglect and abuse and enough rejection, your account becomes overdrawn, right? And you tend to have a insufficient funds when it continues, and then what releases from you begins to be rage and bitterness and anxiety, depression, disease, and substance abuse. All of this is an example of insufficient funds. You have been way overdrawn. You don't have enough in you to pour out, and so this is where you live. Okay. So we talked about those things and the fact that today we're going to reconcile your love account. And that's what we do as women. We give and give and give and give. And we don't necessarily know the ways that we're to bring that back into our own lives. And that's how God wrote this book. He wrote the self-love lessons through me. It was actually through me to me. And it was a message that he was trying to get me to understand about me and how to bring myself oh goodness, the slide's in the way. Back to me, I think. Okay, so anyway, so that's where we left off yesterday. So today we're going to continue and we are going to talk about a very, very touchy subject, sensitive to my own heart. And y'all hold my hand. We're talking about abuse. We're talking about abuse. Get your tissues ready. And as we do, I want you to realize that this journey is about going under the rug so that we can take what's under there, look at it, put God's word on it, let God's love heal it, release it, and let it go, right? That's the intent. So we're going to it, not to get stuck. We have the power, we have the authority, we have the dominion to not get stuck, right? If you find that you have had too traumatic a life and experience, then I get it. This may not be the lesson that you want to pay attention to. Perhaps tomorrow might be a little softer. But we're going to talk about some tough topics today because we need to, because we get to, and because we get to heal them, and we get to stop avoiding them, and we get to deal with the truth of what our hearts are holding on to that we are being sabotaged by. Okay. So we're going to use our breath today. When you find yourself being overwhelmed or a little bit, it gets too much, take a breath. So we're talking about balancing your love account. And when your love account is overdrawn, we're going to talk about some of the things that create that overdrawn, insufficient fund situation. So today we're talking about abuse. We each have a different story. Even though I started out with a high love account balance, I endured consistent withdrawals in my life for years. Let's take the sting out of the word abuse by defining it like this. Abuse is simply using something in a way that it was not intended or an abnormal use of something. We've all lived through some type of abuse in our lives, whether it was abuse at the hands of our parents, our siblings, relatives, boyfriends, spouses, strangers, or even our closest friends.
When I look over my life, I see consistent patterns of emotional abuse that made me believe that ridicule, humiliation, and sabotage were a normal part of relationships. While I cannot remember ever feeling those emotions in my relationships with my mother or father, I did endure years of sibling abuse that still is a sensitive spot for me to this day. I was considered the emotional or sensitive one of us all, the one that was too dramatic or whose feelings were always getting hurt. That was me. For years, I viewed my sensitivity as a negative characteristic. But today I realize that God made my heart a little bit more tender than others because of the call that's on my life. I needed to be sensitive, not overly sensitive, thin skinned, but perceptive, insightful, and compassionate. God has taught me over the years how to use the emotional pain as leverage to toughen my emotional skin. It hasn't been easy, but now instead of seeing it as a curse, I own it as one of my blessings. In addition to the sibling abuse, my parents divorced when I was 8, which caused a huge rift in our family. It was a painful time, as it would be for any child. However, in the context of my own love account balance, now that my father was no longer in the home, it directly impacted his ability and the frequency with which he made love deposits. I had grown accustomed to a higher level of deposits that were definitely decreased as a result of our family separation. People that were close to me, people that I am sure loved me, were behind many of the love withdrawals that I experienced. My mom remarried. My stepfather expressed subtle verbal abuse. Fault finding was his method of mistreatment. I often found myself the butt of his jokes. I was ridiculed for the things about me that were different. While my mother and father would tell me that I was beautiful, he told me over and over again things like my lips were too big or my butt was too small. Hearing things like that was foreign to me at the time. I had never heard anyone in my life point out every little thing that was wrong with me. The insidious thing about verbal abuse is this: when someone finds a fault in you, or when someone finds a fault in you, our natural reaction is to do what we can do what we can to prove them wrong, even if we just prove it to ourselves. Years after that abuse, I still find myself trying to compensate for the things that he said were wrong with me. I remember lining my lips to make them appear smaller, wearing long shirts to hide my inadequate butt. I did whatever I could to show my abuser and myself that I wanted to do things um, that he was wrong, or that, hang on, I did whatever I could to show my abuser and myself that he was wrong, or that I had corrected the fault. And if for nothing else, I wanted to do things a certain way perfectly and look a certain way perfectly so that I wouldn't have to hear that there was something else wrong with me. Sad, isn't it? Abuse creates a twisted, wicked, and imbalanced relationship that breeds inadequacy. I learned later in life that because of that relationship, I found it intolerable to be in relationships with friends and men who would also find fault in me and point them out incessantly. I'm sure you can see how this could deplete anyone's love account balance. I was sexually molested at the age of 9. I couldn't even verbally acknowledge that it happened until I was in therapy almost 30 years later, at almost 30 years old. I never forgot about it. The memory was always there, but the best way that I can describe it is that the incident was not on a conscious level. I hadn't told anyone all my life, yet I can remember every detail of what happened. Fortunately for me, I don't feel scarred by it. I just know that this is part of my past. I also had friends who were abusive. Because I was super sensitive, I had a high level of compassion for people. Being able to talk trash was a highly respected skill on the playground. Needless to say, bullies were always the best trash talkers. I never felt comfortable ridiculing people, especially about the things over which they had no control. I just couldn't do it. I would much rather take the abuse than dish it out. But it didn't just feel. I could think of some great things to say that would really cut deep, but it just didn't feel right to point out the flaws in others with the intention of hurting them. I would always worry that I would say something irreparable. I didn't just want to be the one responsible for inflicting emotional scars. It was that way with my siblings and with my friends. As a result of that, I often felt weak. Now, please don't get it twisted. Talk is one thing, just as long as they didn't put their hands on me. I was taught very early to defend myself if I were physically assaulted. Since I would allow girls to talk about me and even take low blows, some would think that I would just sit back and allow them to hit me, which was definitely not the case. I did have my share of fights in my day. I'm not proud of it. When it came down to it, I could hold my own. Go to hell. I learned very early that I had a gift of seeing the big picture, especially emotionally. I can see the emotional soft spots in people. I've always known exactly what to say that could hurt someone, and I could point out things in their life to really strike an emotional blow, but I almost always hold back. I had never liked to argue, especially with anyone who tried to manipulate me by over talking me. I avoid being tempted to fight people with my words, especially not publicly. I learned very early that one way to get my thoughts and feelings out was to get it on paper. I realized that if I wrote a letter, I would have their undivided attention and I can tell them to go to hell while pointing out all that I could see spiritually in them if they push me to that point. Oh, I'm not proud of that. There were times when I used that gift against people in my life, and it would definitely hurt them badly. It became a running joke among my siblings that if they didn't leave me alone, I would write them a go to hell letter, revealing what I saw in them. And no one wanted to receive a letter from me. The guilt and the condemnation that I felt after my written lashings were simply not worth it. God showed me that I was using that gift in a way that it was never intended. It was not designed to be used to shame people into leaving me alone. The gift was supposed to cause them instead, it was a gift that was revealed to it was a gift that revealed to me their insecurities and inadequacies. The gift was supposed to cause me to show them more compassion in helping them overcome whatever they were dealing with. I was never designed to use my gift as a weapon. Once I learned that lesson, I began yielding my writing to God. I've not written a letter like that since. This is an instance where I depleted my own love account. These incidents, along with many others, began the process of slowly but consistently depleting my love account balance. They prepared the way for me to tolerate even more abusive situations and people, while it formed a considerably large crack in the foundation of my own self-worth. I created this next exercise to help you comprehend the impact of just one incident combined and compared with the consistent endurance of abuse over time. It is vital to resist abuse at all costs. After I completed this exercise for myself, I gained an even clearer understanding of the importance of nipping it in the bud. The damage that emotional abuse inflicts is far more enduring than any physical wound. Emotional scars bleed on the inside. You could be hemorrhaging and not even know it. So take the time to complete this exercise to see where you stand. Remember, we're identifying where you are so that together we can grow into the women that we were destined to be. Note, this exercise could take you to a potentially painful part of your past. If you feel that you will need support through this process, reach out to my community or reach out to me online. You're definitely not alone. If you find that this exercise is too painful to endure, then you probably already get the point of the exercise. Abuse seriously depletes your love account and ultimately impacts what you believe about yourself, your abilities, and the world at large. So now we're going to evaluate your love withdrawals. In this exercise, we will quantify your love account withdrawals that were the result of any abuse that you may have experienced. So think about the various types of abuse listed below. Let me turn to it for you. There we go. Think about the various types of abuse listed below. Can you count the number of incidents? If so, enter the number in the incidents column. Then multiply the number of incidents by 10. If that same type of abuse lasted for a period of years, then multiply the total per incident by the years of occurrence to get your total for that one type of abuse. When you've completed all the types of abuse, add them together to get your total. Feel free to add any forms of abuse that are not listed. As you go through this exercise, do not evaluate the reasons why things were the way they were. This is not about blame, and it's certainly not about guilt. It's also not about shame. It's simply to help you gauge the impact of the incidents that you have endured throughout your life. People do the very best they can with what they know, and nobody is perfect. However, for every action, there is a reaction. And likewise, for every abuse, there's a wound that must be healed. As you evaluate your life, include your entire history of abuse. Start with any abuse that you endured as a child all the way up to yesterday. Remember, you made it this far for a reason. Let's get you to your destiny. Okay. So we're going to go through this exercise together. Let me see how much time oh, no, we're not. We're at 20 minutes. Okay. You all can go to page 106 in the self-love lessons and do this exercise for yourself. It is going to change the way you see you. It's going to change the way you see your need for heart healing and the opportunity that sits before you with this journey. We've all dealt with abuse some type of way. We've all been violated, hurt, mistreated, neglected, rejected. On some level, we've all felt these feelings. But consistent exposure to that does nothing but deplete your love account. And the goal for us is to stay away from this place. When your account is overdrawn, you end up in rage. You end up bitter. You end up having anxiety and depression. You end up having diseases, and you end up having a substance abuse issue. We can't have that. Okay. We can't have any more hurt feelings and judgment, betrayals and bullying and slander, and not know how to handle the emotions that come up from it. So this exercise is going to challenge you. If you have a therapist, do reach out to them. There are multiple resources online to have someone to talk to. There's Talkspace and many others. Do a Google search for it if you have the need. And maybe now is the time for you to find yourself in a counseling session. It will change your life. The healing that needs to take place is a heart healing, and it's spiritual, and I can support you with that. But I can only do so much. So make sure that if you need the support, you reach for it. That's a part of self-love as well. Okay. Getting what you need. So we're going to continue this tomorrow. But right now we're going to jump into the Mother Love community. This was a tough one, I know. And if it brought up tears for you, I understand. Join us in the community. Let's talk about it. Let us hold you. Let us help you. Let us love on you and walk you through it, because we all get to heal. Okay. So thank you so much for watching today. Tomorrow, we're going to continue now that we know what our love account balance is, because you will have completed the exercise on page 106 in the self-love lessons. We're going to be talking tomorrow about how to improve your love account balance, how to take it up a notch. Okay. So thank you all for watching. I do appreciate you hanging in there with me today. I know it was a little bit longer than we usually go, but it was well worth it. Don't you think? If you have any questions or concerns or comments, please do leave them. I will be checking back. Make sure you put a hashtag finished to let me know you've watched to the completion. And be sure to share this with your friends. We all get to heal. So many of us we've been taking on so much for so long. We've been tucking things under the rug and not really knowing how to heal our hearts. And it's important that we learn to do that so that we can teach our kids to do it as well. All right. God bless you. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Take good care. Bye-bye.